is the fact that, like you said, people do have a certain loyalty to the area. In addition, though, it seems to be very, it's a family-oriented area where a lot of people have lived there for many years. I mean, I know people who've lived in Carnes forever, and their grandma lived there, and their great-grandma lived there. I'm like, goodness gracious, no. But people, they do that. But now that I think it's becoming an area where there will be more development, there will be more businesses that come in and whatnot. How do you maintain that, that family atmosphere while still bringing in more revenue?
Well, you've got to broaden your tax base. I mean, if you don't broaden your tax base through business development or even residential development, everybody's property taxes are going to increase because the cost of government goes up every year, no matter what you do, and your fixed costs are always going to go up. But you have to broaden your tax base, you got to do it. In a, there's, I'll give you an example. Behind my house, the people that own that land behind my house, new Carnes Valley Road came in and made it appealing to that person to try to make it a commercial area. Well, there's a ball field and houses all around there, and they were going to put a little small warehouses in there, and that didn't fit. There's plenty of empty spaces on Oak Ridge Highway to put more warehouses and or to put some kind of light industrial. And so we just got to do those things to make sure that we don't put things in the way of, we're going to have residential growth. There's no question about that. There's property owners out there. There's people that are wanting to develop their farmland, and so we're going to have it. But we got to make sure that it has the community characteristics, and also that we just make sure that the commercial stays where it should be and the residential stays. I mean, it's as simple as, I think that's how we maintain our character.
You talked about following the sector plan, which is essentially doing that. It's saying, okay, this is zoned for this is zoned for that, let's not change it.
And I think, too, that if you involve the community in some way with what's happening, as opposed to things happen and they appear. And a community's like, where did that come from? Why is that there? We don't understand. And I think if you can somehow keep the community abreast of things that are going on, I think you do a better job of trying to help them feel more a part of the change that's happening. I think change is difficult for people. And so when you have change, if you can gain consensus about that change in terms of this is occurring, then I think it's better for everybody out there. And yeah, it's going to happen. It's happening. People know development is going to happen. You're not going to stop it, and you need it. I think it's how we develop that makes a difference.
Now, both of you, I don't know that you're new to politics, but you're fairly new, names on the scene. What would you like a voter to know about you to differentiate yourself from one another and from other people in the past? Because you are both kind of new to the whole political scene in the county.
Everybody in our race, except for one person, I think, had never run for public office. And so, I think that what's important for people to understand, especially about me, is I want to come in and do my sworn duty for a time and not be sticking around for 15 to 20 years and make my mark, the best mark I can make on the district, and just move on and let somebody else do it. Because you stay in there too long, you get stale. You get to the point where you have to almost blast it and coming out of office. And so I don't want to be that person, because I think at some point those people can hold the county back, because everything becomes about a personal agenda and about re-election. And I think that I want to come in there and do my job, and then go back to being Brad and being husband and soon to be dad, and do that and let somebody else do it. So that's kind of where I want to leave it. I don't need a building with my name on it. So.
How about you?
Well, I, for a living, work with families and children in their home, birth to 3H, who have special needs. And so I have always been kind of a people person, and my focus has been the people in the community. And so for me, it's evolved into simply wanting to be that person on county commission that represents them. And I totally agree. This is not a career thing I'm doing here. I've never done this before, and we'll see. We're going to see what happens, and I'm excited about that prospect and possibility of having some impact in what's happening in Knox County right now, a positive impact, and going in maybe a different direction and trying to bring us back to a place where people can trust those that are in office. And I tell people, trust is something you earn. So you have to earn that by the things that you do and the things that people see you do. And then they decide, okay, this person is trustworthy. And that just takes time. And I feel like I've been out there in the community doing that and trying to meet people and let them know who I am and the kind of person that I am with families that I work with all the time on a daily basis. So that's kind of the direction I'm going.
Now, you're an officer. Am I correct in that? I wanted to talk a little bit about crime, actually, so I thought I would start with directing that at you. As Knox County is growing, we are seeing more crime. I mean, and we are seeing it in places that we might not have seen it as often before. You hear about home invasions in Powell and Carnes, and granted, maybe they knew each other. I don't know what the circumstances of those individual incidents are, but it is definitely spreading, and it's becoming more common. What do we do about that? Now, I realize that as a county commissioner, you may not have a direct impact on that. It may be more of an indirect approach. How do we deal with that as we grow?
Well, the first thing you got to, the main thing is to keep up with public safety, and law enforcement is extremely expensive. And with the county having to operate the jail system, the city don't have to operate a jail, and so the county has to operate the jail system by state law, and it's extremely expensive, and you got to make sure that we're doing the most with what we have. The reason that the crime comes, it's simple. The more people, the more opportunity, the more crime. The economy drives the crime rate. You wouldn't believe how we know when the economy starts suffering at the police department, we know property crime is going to increase. And so there are things that drive that. As a commissioner, I think it's the most important thing we could do is encourage neighborhoods to become involved and encourage neighborhoods to become more cohesive. Because right now, you can go and I asked a friend, a friend of mine. I said, "Hey, do you know your neighbors well enough to go and talk to them for me?" And he said, "You know what? I ain't spoke to my neighbors in probably 6 to 8 months." And so I'm like, well, I don't want you to go talk to them because you don't have their trust. And so if you don't know your neighbors, so I think as commissioners we can encourage neighborhoods and communities, to develop community boards, neighborhood groups, and so we can impact it that way. But overall, as a commission, we got to make sure that we keep law enforcement sustained and realize that it costs money and it doesn't make anything. And so we've got to make sure that we maintain that.
Ms. Bryant.
I have to I will echo exactly what Brad said on that one. I think the idea of community networking and people having community neighborhood watches is incredibly important and powerful. And I have to say, in my own community, there's some people that I don't know well that we probably should. And I have been out in the community and met some people who live on a street that you might not think, it's kind of a thoroughfare street, and you wouldn't think they'd know their neighbors, but they know them all. And again, I think that comes from the fact that we do have people that have lived in the Powell and the Carnes and the Solway communities, Ball Camp, those areas for many, many, many years. They know their neighbors, and so that's a good thing. And I think you just have to promote that and let newer neighborhoods know that this is a good way to go. That you can really impact, I think, the safety in the area by doing that. But I would definitely echo all of what Brad said regarding funding of our law enforcement. It's incredibly important, and we have to do that. I mean, it's just you have to. Law enforcement, education, I think, two of the most important things that we fund through county government.
That was the next thing I was going to go to, actually, and I'm going to start with you this time, Ms. Bryant, but I wanted to, as a parent, obviously, schools are the most important thing to me, and as I'm looking around trying to determine where in Knox County I want to live or whatnot, I always am going to go to the schools and look at the schools and the crime as the decision-making factors. Now, I know we had this rezoning in the schools. It's been a kind of tough thing for some Powell residents to accept.
Very much.
We have the new Hardin Valley Academy.
Right.
Carnes School's pretty much average, put listed as average as far as the profiles go. What do we do to improve in Knox County overall, but especially in District 6?
Well,